Hello everybody, I am Dr. Gaynor, and today we are doing Dr. Gaynor Says, which means if you have any questions for me at all that I can answer about mental health, coping, life, please feel free to ask me and I would be happy to help. So let me readjust myself a little bit. Again, this is Dr. Gaynor Says. We are going to be doing this question and answer session every first Friday of the month. So every first Friday of the month between 10 and 12 Eastern, we will be doing this segment. And so please feel free to ask me any questions you have, to send a message, and I am going to give it a few minutes for people to just get notifications that we are online. Again, I am Dr. Brianna Gaynor. So I am a clinical psychologist in Johns Creek, Georgia. So I am north of Atlanta, and I have a private practice called Peace of Mind Psychological Services. And we do counseling and therapy for children, adolescents, and adults, but we also do psychological evaluation. So basically, if there is any concern about what may be happening, any mental health diagnoses, things that we're just not sure about, my child is struggling with school, my child may need does my child need medication? Does my child have ADHD? We assess for all of that. So what a psychological evaluation will do, again, is kind of help to identify whatever the specific concern is, and most importantly, what are the recommendations that are going to help you and your family. So, welcome. I am going to give it a few minutes, and then we will jump right in. And if we don't have questions today, I do have some information that I want to share with you. So, happy Friday, everybody. So one of the things that I just wanted to mention, I know that we all have different relationships with different people, and a lot of times communication can be an area of difficulty. So this book is called I Said This, You Heard That. So this is something that we have actually used with our staff. We've done an assessment whenever we have new people come in, and it really tells you what people's communication styles are, what their strengths and weaknesses are. And it really helps us in working with people to really figure out if they are, for instance, someone who is very task-oriented, someone who is very social, and that's how they engage, someone who's very detail-oriented. What are those strengths and weaknesses, and how can we utilize those to the best of our ability? So, again, I said this, you heard that. And it's really good, too, for just relationships in general. A few of my friends and I have used it and kind of talked through it, and it's interesting to see the strengths and weaknesses, and then kind of what you do for a living and how you tend to engage in life. So hello everybody, once again, my name is Dr. Gaynor. I am a clinical psychologist in Johns Creek, Georgia, and I have a private practice called Peace of Mind Psychological Services in Johns Creek, Georgia. So we are going to be doing this segment. We're going to call it Dr. Gaynor Says, every first Friday of the month between 10 and 12 Eastern time. So if you have any questions, please feel free to send the questions now, from anything from mental health, coping, just kind of how to deal with life in general, questions about parenting, questions about mental health services in general, and I would be happy to answer them. And then because we're going to be doing this every month, feel free to send in your questions throughout the month, and I'll be happy to answer them. Okay? Again, I am Dr. Gaynor. I hope you guys have been doing well. I know that the North and Midwest have had a lot of snow and a lot of cold weather, and I am kind of happy that I'm in the South right now that we don't have that, but I hope that everyone is doing well. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get started. I want to make sure that I can give you guys some helpful content, some things that will just hopefully give you support in areas that maybe you didn't even realize you needed support. So one of the things that my staff and I have done over the past 2 years is write a blog. And the blog is on our website, peaceofmindpsychology.com. And so what we tend to do is, what are some of the areas that people are struggling with or things that we can talk about? One of my favorite things to talk about is courage. I often think that our definition of courage is a little skewed. I believe that we often think that you have to be brave, or you have to be someone who tends to take risks, or impulsive. Well, not maybe impulsive necessarily, but someone who is daring in order to be courageous, in order to do those hard things in life. And that's not true. The truth is, courage is not about not having fear. It's about pushing through the fear and doing that thing anyway. And so if we can look at it as, I can still have this anxiety, I can still have this worry and be courageous, then maybe it's something that will feel more attainable for us. So I don't know what any of you guys are going through right now. I know in general, we are all still adjusting to what's going on in the world, and people are struggling economically, struggling relationally, just struggling in general. I know for myself, it's been about trying to find a new balance with work, because sometimes I'm at the office, sometimes I'm not. Trying to find a new balance with what that looks like, and also identifying when I just kind of need to get out, get some space. What does that look like in terms of working out? Because that was a whole different regimen that I was used to before. And then also just being able to continue to meet goals even in this new climate. So my question would first be, what is the one courageous thing you need to do? Whether it's write that book, whether it's to have that conversation, whether it's to finish that degree, whether it's to start that family. What's that courageous thing that you need to do that you are fearful of, or you're scared of, or you've started and maybe stopped and not feeling confident in? I want to give you some tips on how to push through the fear and get to the courageous part. And again, courage is not about not being scared. It's about pushing through with the fear and being okay with that. So I want you to be comfortable with the fact that even if it is something that's scary, that's okay. Do it scared. That is courage. And so I want to give you a few points. So of course, first of all, we need to figure out the what. So what is the courageous thing that you need to do? So let's use an example of maybe looking for a new job. So the courageous thing to do would be, I need to leave my job. I know I'm not happy here. I know that I am not feeling fulfilled. I know that all the things that I want to do are not here. I know that I have a skill set maybe that's not being utilized. So first we have to identify what the issue is. So what is the thing I need to do? We have to start with basics first. And so then the second thing would be, why am I so scared? Why am I so scared? I think sometimes we can experience fear and not really even identify what that's about. So maybe on the surface, it's, oh my gosh, starting a new job. I don't know what this transition is going to look like. But maybe if you really consider it, it's about if you're going to feel competent. Will you be able to do it? Will you get accepted for the job? Will that rejection for you be worse than even trying at all? So identify why you're so scared. What is it that's holding you back? And it may not just be what beats the eye. Then, what is the worst thing that can happen? That is one of my favorite questions to ask people, because we often tend to have a lot of fears, concerns, and what is the worst thing that can happen? You don't get the job, but you don't have the job right now anyway, right? And so it's something that you can survive. I had someone tell me maybe a few months ago, we were talking about fears and vulnerabilities and how difficult that is. And the question that was posed was, what if that happened? Could you deal with it? And you could. You know what you're dealing with right now. So either you'd be where you are right now, which you already know how to deal with, or something could shift and change. Is it worth taking the chance for that shift and change? And maybe the rejection wouldn't be such a bad thing because there's something better in store. But what's the worst that can happen? And for the most part, we can deal with whatever the worst thing that can happen is. If we consider that we can deal with it, whatever it is, then guess what? It really will be okay no matter what happens. But you will have moved a little bit more forward than you had before. And that's something that is invaluable. So What is the courageous thing I need to do? Why am I so scared? What's the worst that could happen? So, could I survive that? And inevitably, for the most part, the answer would be yes. The other question would be, what do I lose if I don't do this thing? So, going back to the job example, if I don't do it, I won't know maybe the things that I need to brush up on in terms of interview skills, or what my resume could look like, or how to present myself in a different way, or maybe even the type of jobs I want. Because maybe you go to the interview, you think it's what you want, but then you recognize that maybe there's something else. It really does help you get clearer about what you need. But you can't get clearer, you can't figure out things, you can't maneuver and adjust your options or your desires if you don't even take the first step. Again, courage is about moving forward even when you're scared. It's not about not being scared at all. It's about pushing through that. And so then the next question would be, what are the steps that I need to do to move forward to reach my goal? And so going back to that same example, I probably need to update my resume. Is there someone who's in this field, a friend, someone who can look at this for me? What are the types of jobs? Is there someone I know who could help me with that? Do I need a job coach? What are those things that I need to start doing to make sure that I can be ready for the next step? Because when we have these desires and these goals, part of it too is being ready for it. And so if I am wanting to start a new business and that's my desire, and that's what I'm thinking about, I also need to be prepared with things like, do I need a location? How am I going to market? What's my budget? How much money do I need to be making in order to sustain myself? Who are the people I need to connect with who will help me to get the clientele? How am I going to take payments? There's all these things that we need to put in place before we have the business. So what are those steps? Really kind of taking that time. And then lastly, who can help me? So that kind of went into what I just talked about, but who can help? When I started my business, I went to a business consultation group, and that was with a woman who had already had 4 successful mental health practices. So she knew what she was doing. And then I continued with a consultation group, but I also worked in the industry that I wanted to, and I started doing administrative stuff because it just kind of happened that way, but it was a blessing. So I figured out how to take phone calls, how to take appointments, how to verify insurance, where you market. So I really was able to immerse myself in that process. So I knew what I wanted my business to look like and not look like, and start to prepare. So I knew that I needed people who were ahead of me, but I also knew that I needed a support group of people in the same place as me. And so to this day, I still had that same consultation group, and we meet maybe 3 or 4 times a year. And it used to be very much about business, but now we have become wonderful friends, and they help me with any questions that I have. We bounce ideas off of each other. Even this past week, I had a question about something, and I can send out an email and get that support. Support is so important. If we have not learned anything from 2020 except this, I hope that it's, we are made to be social beings, and we need the support of each other to thrive. So don't forget about the people in your sphere of influence, the people you know who can help, or maybe people you need to reach out to who can also be supportive, who can be mentors. So again, I'm talking about how to be courageous, which is pushing through even when you're fearful. And so I want you to ask yourself a few questions about courage that can help you to push through that thing. First of all, what is the courageous thing I need to do? What is that thing that's in the back of your mind that you want to do, that you've considered and you just kind of put it to the side, or maybe it hasn't gone the way that you wanted to do. You wanted it to. So what's the courageous thing? Secondly, why am I so scared? Why am I so scared? Thirdly, what is the worst thing that can happen? And a follow-up to that is, if the worst thing happened, would I survive? What do I lose if I